having this interesting topic discussion allows people, I think, to meet in a very different way, where they can be more free, be more open. This is not meant to be one of those discussions where we are kind of deep diving into very, very serious topics. It's much more personal. So do allow your personality to show through. Do allow yourself to be more relaxed in the setting, and try to take this as basically kind of experience sharing. This is a loving, good topic, loving experience. We're meeting and we're talking. So try to keep that energy. I would suggest. So since we are all here now, I think we can begin. As I mentioned earlier, this is being recorded. We may have some audience members that show up. Any audience members that will show up will be muted or told to close down their cameras. This is going to be recorded, and it will subsequently be edited to some degree so that we have some smaller pieces that are much easier to distribute, but also the full session in its entirety to some degree. So, the webinar on women, innovation, and empowerment. I certainly feel a little outside here. I shouldn't be here, I feel. But nevertheless, I am here to accommodate you, and I'm here to make it so that this becomes an engaging and interesting debate. I would like to start by saying this is such an honor for me to have you, as the distinguished panelists that you are, with us here today. Could you just make it so that we can understand a little bit about you? Give us a 2-minute introduction of yourself. And in my screen, Shasmina, you are first. So if you could start by just introducing yourself, tell us your story and how did you get here, so to speak.
Thank you so much, Faisal. Yeah, I'd love to. My name is Jasmina Plas, and I'm in charge of our entrepreneurial area at the Danish Chamber of Commerce, which means that I'm not a female entrepreneur myself, but I have the privilege of working with so many inspiring female entrepreneurs every day. That's what we at the Chamber of Commerce work to basically lobby the government for better conditions for entrepreneurs, including women, and look into what are the obstacles at the moment for females in Denmark to start their own company. We can clearly see that there are some problems and bias when we look at men and women starting companies. And just as well, making sure that the members we have in the Chamber of Commerce, including the female entrepreneurs, that we make some good networking possibilities to meet up and give each other recommendations and support each other. That's what I basically do on a daily basis.
Great, marvelous. And so in a round table, normally we say we go round the table. We don't really have a table here, but I'll do a crisscross instead and cross over to, on my screen, Misbah Takvi. Could you give us an introduction to your work as well?
Sure, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and lovely to meet everyone. And hi, Summer, we know each other. So my background is basically mostly been in finance for the last 23 years, mostly in Pakistan. At the moment, I am a venture investor along with my partner Kulsoom Lakhani. We're Pakistan's first and only female-founded VC. We invest in early-stage entrepreneurs. We use a gender lens in our approach to investing, but we don't invest only in women, but we really make sure that we are activist as far as bringing more women into the space is concerned, as far as looking for great women entrepreneurs is concerned. And our sister entity, which is Invest to Innovate, which has been in the Pakistan startup ecosystem for the last 10 years, has worked with over 400 entrepreneurs and has supported several female-focused programs. So there is this collective approach towards bringing more women into the entrepreneurship space, more women into tech, and at our fund, I2I Ventures, we try to look for really great women entrepreneurs at the early stage of the investment horizon. So more on that later, but it's a pleasure to be here and happy to share my thoughts and with my colleagues here. Thanks.
Excellent, excellent, very interesting. And so we'll go up now, Shiniru. Maybe you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got here. What is your story?
Fantastic. And first of all, good morning, everyone, and thank you for including me. I'm excited, delighted to be here. And in honor of you all, I'm wearing a beautiful Pakistani scarf that the Ambassador Pakistan to Denmark gave me last week when we met, live in Copenhagen. So I wanted to get that out there first of all. So real pleasure to be here. So my story, to answer your question. So I'm dual Danish and British, as you can probably hear. After school, university, economist by background, strategy consultant, PwC background in tech throughout, and over the last 30 years have built my career in tech in London and across the Nordics. And working with entrepreneurs and so on and so forth, but also very large tech companies. And quite early on in London, got involved with Tech Nordic Advocates, older sibling, if you like, Tech London Advocates, which is really the engine behind London's Tech Hub. So I've sat on London's Tech City Steering Group. I've been tech advisor to the last 4 Danish ambassadors in London. I lecture on innovation, entrepreneurship at business schools and so on. And I run a strategy and innovation boutique as well. And then 5 years ago, I set up Tech Nordic Advocates in Denmark to cover the Nordics and Baltics with a mission to support the growth of digital tech startups, and that's been going and growing extremely fast. We are the sibling of the London network and the Northern European arm of Global Tech Advocates, which is the world's only global tech community, startup innovation tech community. And as part of that, we have actually Northern Europe's biggest women in tech community. And we also run Europe's only international growth program for female founders in tech. So we can come on to that, but I guess that's an important angle to sort of end that on. And that is actually running and is live here in Copenhagen right now. So I can reflect on some of that and what led to that and what's happening with it and so on. But yeah, so that's me. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you.
Great. And digital tech communities certainly are on the rise. Samar, maybe you can give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself and what is your story and how you got here.
Sure, thank you so much. Lovely to be here. So hello everyone. Hi Misbah. Yes, indeed we know each other. It's a small community if you're working for women entrepreneurs, for tech entrepreneurs, for entrepreneurs in general in Pakistan. So my story is I came back to Pakistan in 2007 November after having studied in Switzerland for 6 years. And like all young people, I think when we come back, we're very passionate about serving the country. So I actually ended up working for an educational foundation where we set up a vocational and technical education center. And the biggest task at hand was just the establishment of a liberal arts and sciences university. So a lot of my work has been focused on youth development, and I worked for a financial inclusion organization as well as a governance and accountability organization. But it was at the financial inclusion organization that I ended up writing a short paper for a colleague based out of the UK, who is now, interestingly enough, one of the advisors for Epiphany and a very dear friend. And she'd wanted a case study from Pakistan, and I ended up interviewing a lot of people. In fact, Kulsum was one of the people that I interviewed because of her work in the entrepreneurship space. And one thing became glaringly obvious, that there was limited support which was available. This is back in 2016. So there was limited support that was available for women entrepreneurs and for social entrepreneurs. In fact, I2I, Seed Ventures, and Social Innovation Lab were practically the only 3 entities based out of Lahore, Karachi, and Islamabad. And interestingly, one was focused on incubation, one was focused on acceleration, and the third one was focused on investment. So just, kind of like each part of the journey was being taken up by these guys. And I thought to myself that, look, this is an area where I'm passionate and what I want to do. So I actually ended up looking for people who would help me on the social entrepreneurship mission, because there's a very strong link between social entrepreneurship and women empowerment. And that's how Epiphany was born, right? So I put the blame squarely on my friend based out of the UK for forcing me to leave my job at Karandaz, which is a financial inclusion organization, and just taking the leap of faith and doing this. So now 4 years on, we work with entrepreneurs at different cycles. So we work a lot, very, very closely with different incubators. So we're not an incubator ourselves. We do offer 2 acceleration programs. One is for early stage entrepreneurs. So the minute they've got their MVP, they're free to come to our, we call it Epiphany Lab. And the other one is focused on growth stage entrepreneurs who are actually looking to scale, looking for investment. And recently we've started doing boot camps as well. So we're doing investment bootcamp. We did one with I2I support in January. Now we're doing another one in June. So we feel that women entrepreneurs, they really need, and these are focused more on women. We also have a women empowerment series that we do called Smashing It, where the whole objective is to highlight strong Pakistani women leaders. They could be entrepreneurs, they don't have to be. So it's it's a mix of everything. And now I would say we're no longer a social enterprise. We've also evolved into a creative enterprise. And since last year, we're working very, very strategically for the gaming and tech entertainment space in Pakistan. So I'll stop here. I think maybe I spoke more for 2 minutes. So sorry, apologies for that.
No, that's quite all right. Very, very fascinating. And again, it's a very good transition, I think, to what we're going to be doing now. I mean, you've already witnessed the challenges of trying to do this in your environment. And certainly, if we were to focus in on that and go into the meat of the debate a little bit, the challenges, the biases, the toxicity, these are some of the terms that we are hearing from that, that world. So the question is it different being a woman within the IT space? And if so, how is it different? What are some of the things? And Samar, I think you could maybe begin on this since you already have a little bit of experience in that field. What are your experiences?
So look, when you're talking about Pakistan, we don't see a lot of women in leadership positions in the IT world. So that presents a challenge in and unto itself. Because when you don't have enough women in leadership positions, you're not driving policy changes or creating flexible work environments, or even thinking something as basic as, okay, you know what, there are going to be mothers here and we need to provide a daycare for that person. So there are tons of policies, mobility, not everybody in Pakistan, not every woman in Pakistan knows how to drive or owns a car or a vehicle. They're dependent on somebody to pick them up, drop them. Flexibility, which is required, because at the same time, women at the end of the day have more responsibility at the house. So family responsibilities, childcare responsibilities, taking care of parents, aging parents, all of that somehow or the other falls more to the women, and it's across the world, right? It's not just Pakistan. This is what it is in the UK as well and elsewhere. So those are some of the problems that you face, because in the IT industry, we also have to take a look at what the IT industry in Pakistan is doing. And it is actually providing services, and a lot of them are outsourcing services to the global world, which means different time zones. When you're working for the global world, sometimes it requires you to work at night, do late shifts. And again, that presents a difficulty for women entrepreneurs. So I would say that that's sort of, one of the biggest barriers for women trying to excel. It's difficult, especially when you're trying to take a break because you're raising your children. Some organizations have programs which are encouraging return to work for women, but by and large, it's not something which is across the board, right? So I think that kind of environment does make it more difficult to excel as a woman. The other thing that I do feel that women in Pakistan have to do, we strive harder to prove ourselves, right? And this is across the board. Misbah, of course, can talk more about the investment side of things as well. But even when it comes to the startup world and tech-enabled businesses, technology is not something which a lot of women entrepreneurs are easily able to adopt. I mean, they're able to adopt it once they're given the trainings, but it doesn't come naturally to a lot of women. Finance as well, I think there are tons of challenges on that front as well. So, I'm not answering only IT. I'm talking generally a little bit, because I think we have to locate the problem within the context.
Sinead, do you see similar challenges in your work areas as Samar is describing here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you're right to say, Samar, that a lot of the challenges that you just described are definitely pervasive, right? Or global even. Those challenges are very similar in Denmark, in the UK, in Pakistan. The different countries are at different stages of development in terms of addressing those structural challenges, but they are definitely there in one shape or form or another. But I think the other important point to highlight here, in answer to your question about the environment and so on, actually, a key issue is the simple fact that there are very few women in tech still. and even fewer at the higher levels of organizations and in entrepreneurs as well. And us women, that's in our DNA. We kind of quite like to be able to see ourselves and other people. We need role models. And because there are so few, that in itself presents a structural challenge. So because young girls and young women at universities and coming up through kind of the ranks and age groups, isn't it, can't really see many women above them in age terms, but also hierarchical terms in organizations, they don't aspire to tech naturally because it's such a male-dominated space. So in addition to all the structural challenges that you just, or societal challenges even that you just described, Samar, you know, one of the things that we must crack, and which is what we're trying to make a huge difference to with this program we're running, is to get more women into tech by nurturing them, supporting them, so we can increase the pool of women in tech, so that we have more and more role models that women that are coming up through the ranks and hierarchies can begin to mirror themselves and begin, you know, subconsciously to think, you know, tech is a completely natural career for me, or tech entrepreneurship is a natural career for me, because there are loads of other women in there. So why not me? And that's the biggest challenge we have right now, in addition to those structural societal challenges, is there are so few, we have so few role models. So that's why we have to take, you know, decisive action, like have these kinds of programs, in order to correct that imbalance in numbers. That's really important.
I mean, the question is, these challenges, are they actually reaching the governmental levels, and what are kind of the governmental reactions to this? Shasmina, what do you think from a governmental standpoint, or from a higher up standpoint? Are these challenges reaching you guys? I mean, are you reacting to this? I think you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I think I'm coming through now. Yes, at the Chamber of Commerce, we recently made an analysis where we tried to figure out what are the obstacles for women to start their own company. And what we could see was that the primary reason why women are not starting a business, they said that they don't feel like they have the right skills to start a company, which I think is talking in the same area as Jeanette was talking about. Like, we need role models, and if we can't see people in front of us that has done the same thing, it can be very easy to blame yourself and be like, well, maybe I don't have the right skills to do this. And we just need to overcome that. That obviously is like a cultural barrier, and I think it's a quite interesting one, because, well, it is. I think if you ask any entrepreneur, like, did you have the right skills to become an entrepreneur when you started, I think 0% would say, like, oh yeah, I had all the right skills and I was just acing it from the beginning. I think most entrepreneurs has struggled a bit and had been through a lot of learning by doing, made some mistakes, and like tried again. And maybe we just need to make sure that women also know that this is okay. You don't have to know everything from the moment you start. Another interesting thing, which is, and this is the area about like having the right skills, that's very predominant for the younger females. And when we look at women over 35, we can see one of the main reasons is that they think they're afraid that it will take too much time, which we try then to match. We asked like all the entrepreneurs that we have at the Chamber of Commerce, like, so how many hours do you work? And we could see that there was a difference in, I think it was like almost 30 hours a month, the difference between what entrepreneurs said that they worked, and then the people who weren't entrepreneurs, they thought that they worked, you would have to work 30 hours more a month if you were an entrepreneur. So I think that's interesting too, and we have to be better to talk about these things so that we can make the barriers smaller and make it more transparent on what is it that you are going into, and then coming back to the whole role model. area, if we're better at showing role models and showing women having a job and making their own business and having a family at the same time, and putting these on stage and making sure that we can see them in news outlets, I think that we can be much better at inspiring younger women to start a business, or older women for that matter. And coming back to your questions about like, what does do the government meet these? Can we do something like on a government level? It's a very good question. Also, the Chamber of Commerce is actually privately owned, so we try to lobby the government to do better things for entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurs. And what we can see is that one of the main problems for female entrepreneurs at the moment is actually down to like maternity leave. It's a big risk to go from like a job where you get a salary every month and you can go on maternity leave very easily. And then if you start your own, then going on maternity leave can be quite risky, because, well, who's going to take care of your business while you're away, and in all these areas, and who's going to take care of the baby while you're taking care of your job if you choose to do both at the same time. So these are some of the problems that we try to talk to the politicians about at the moment, and I'm very, very positively surprised to see that they're listening. I think that there is a momentum right now in Danish politics that wants to do something about it. They can see that we have a problem in this area, and right now it's only 25% of entrepreneurs who are women in Denmark, and we're basically missing out on potential, because all these women who are currently not starting a business, where they have the opportunity to go out, create some jobs, make sure that they pay some tax, this company, and basically pay for that welfare that we all need in the future.
Excellent. And certainly there are differences, obviously, between Denmark and Pakistan, and we can go into that later. But skills, the types of skills, Misbah, what are, as an investor, the types of skills that you find are necessary in a startup? And also, of course, I mean, how do you kind of, do you think about maternity leave being a problem when you're thinking about investing in a startup? How does this resonate within the investors community?
Sure. And look, traditionally across the world, venture capital has not been female focused, as we haven't had many women investors or even female founders that are being invested in. And unfortunately, the pandemic has made it worse. So it's actually gone down to, I think, less than 2% this time around. I think for us as being female investors, one of the things that, like I've mentioned earlier, is that we are activist about looking at pipeline and trying to bring more women up into the space so that we can actually look at them as potential investees. In that regard, our sister entity, which is Invest to Innovate, I mentioned, has been working in the entrepreneurship space more broadly. They've run an accelerator program. They've done programs in partnership with World Bank, IFC, Facebook, AWS. And the idea there is to support entrepreneurs more broadly, but some of these programs have been female founded. So one example is of a program called We Raise, which the Invest to Innovate team has just concluded the first batch and is now recruiting for the second batch in partnership with the World Bank and the Women in Finance initiative of the World Bank. And what they're doing there is that they're taking women entrepreneurs that are looking to raise funds and helping them get investment ready. So these are women that are already running their businesses, that they're already running tech-enabled or tech-based businesses, but they may not have had the exposure in terms of how do you set yourself up for investment. Obviously, for those that are looking to raise venture investment, every business does not have to raise venture investment. I'll be the first person to say that. But in the case that they are interested, this program is actually working with women founders and helping them access bespoke training, access to mentors, to coaches, to other investors to come and speak to them and to help engage with them in a very hands-on program to then be able to get them to figure out how to be investment ready, or at least get themselves to that point. So one thing is to look at women that are already in the funnel and how do we strengthen them so that when they come in front of investors like us, that they're actually better equipped. I think the other thing is, if you take a step back, is to how do you widen the funnel? And I think that's something that we've been looking at as well, is that maybe I can't do it as a single investor, but definitely entrepreneurship support organizations like Summers, which is Epiphany, like I2I, like the national incubation centers, which we have in Pakistan, can definitely do more in terms of widening that funnel so that we make sure that more women are actually coming into that. What we've also seen from an investment perspective is that sometimes women start businesses that tend to be a little bit more homegrown. So they will be entrepreneurs, and not to say that one is better than the other, but in terms of scale, they might be craft based, they might be home based, they might be let's say home chefs that are making extra money by actually running a business, providing food. And the internet and the spread of technology has definitely made it easier for these women to access more markets. But I think what's still missing is that what else is needed to help them to grow and to help them. It may not be venture funding, maybe it's government support programs, maybe it's access to grants in certain cases, maybe it's access to communities where they can thrive, like, let's say other women who they can exchange notes from. Like Summer was giving the example about, businesses where, they are baby friendly, or they have a creche there, or they have flexible hours. I think one thing that we've all realized is that we don't really have to be in the office, right? Thanks to the last year, a lot that we can do remotely. And so I think the question is, how do we then engage women in a way that they take advantage of this new comfort that globally we have with remote work, that allows them to do more? I think coming to us, from the investment perspective, it has been, research has actually shown, and this is again global, not just Pakistan, but Pakistan is a very patriarchal society, and so we even see it at a more severe level. But we've seen globally that women founders and women entrepreneurs, when they're talking to potential investors, they get asked very defensive questions when they're making their pitch. They get asked questions like, how will you make sure your competitors don't overtake you? Like, how will you make sure you have enough money, etc.? And men and male founders and male entrepreneurs actually get asked aspirational questions. So they get asked questions which allow them to show how big their vision is, which allow them to talk about how big they want to grow and how they're going to grow into 7 countries, or whatever it may be. So I think what we're trying to do at an investor level is really change that conversation and change that narrative. So to lead by understanding that we're taking a gender lens approach. And what that means is when you're evaluating companies, you actually maybe remove some of the obstacles that women founders sometimes face. I think what that also means is that when we invest in companies, to the second part of your question, Faisal, we're trying to encourage founders to bring more women into their companies as employees. We're trying to help foster a more women-friendly workspaces. We recently had a conversation with one of our founders that was struggling with a really smart, really capable female engineer who was, under pressure because she had family members at home that she would have to take care of, and also, have a baby and all of that. And so that conversation was about how do we enable her to continue to do her job, which she really wants to do, but also help with some of the remove some of the obstacles that she may be facing. So, how can there be flexible work hours? Maybe she moves to a part-time schedule, but that she's still part of the team and is able to contribute. So I think we have to work at different levels. And again, like in a place like Pakistan, where traditionally women's roles are seen as the family, the homemakers, often taking care of older parents-in-law, as well as the children, I think we need to fight a little bit harder and create a little bit more space there as well.
Absolutely. So this, addressing the skill issue or gaps in skill is not really that big of a problem. You can address it by looking at training and etc. Getting more people through the funnel and having role models. And you even hinted at some of the issues with regards to, we could almost begin to transition into this idea of toxicity and the barriers that might be there for women, particularly perhaps in Pakistan. I don't know. Shanira, what is your experience with this? Is this also prevalent within the Nordics and within the Western culture?
Before I answer, would it be okay to add some comments to what Jasmine and Misbah were saying? Because both of you, Jasmine, has stimulated a lot of important points, actually. So that I would just love to add a perspective to as well, if that's okay. And certainly the school, if that's all right. You know, and just the point, yeah, absolutely, and the government point as well, actually, which is super important. So the whole skills point is absolutely fundamental. And as Jasmina quite rightly said, and the report that they commissioned and produced and so on, you know, women, you know, largely feel, in addition to the lack of role models, they don't have the right skills. Right, and exactly as you said as well, Jasmina, you know, no one has the right skills, has all the skills you need to become an entrepreneur when you set out. It's a bit of a jungle, really, right? But what we see, and what we see on this program that we are running now, the Denmark as entrepreneurship, as women entrepreneurship front runner, which is running in Denmark. So we've got 60 women in tech entrepreneurs going through the first module of the program right now. And we are effectively running our own business school on that program, taught by international folks on business planning and legal stuff and selling and communication skills and unconscious bias and how to make pitches and get investment ready and the whole shebang of skills. And what we see is exactly what Jasmina said, which is the women come onto the program and said, I don't know anything effectively. But the same men that start out of entrepreneurs also say, well, you know, I don't know everything, but I'm going to do it anyway. So that spills into a related area, which is confidence. And that's why the question you were just asking about governmental involvement and support and so on is we have to come at this stuff at a national level. And so your question about government, so based on the program we've been running now for some time here, Stine Bosse, our chair, and myself are meeting the minister soon to talk about the impact our program has had already and why that approach, the top-down national approach, is the right one. Backed by what we have seen in Canada, for example, how they have gone about things in a much more top-down, national-driven way, supported by the government. And we have been working with, you know, Tech Canada advocates and the Canadians that are award-winning on entrepreneurial programs and women in tech and all the rest of it for some time, and effectively modeled the program that we're running here in Denmark now on the Canadian programs and on the programs I've been involved with in London and Silicon Valley and New York and so on for women in tech. That's absolutely fundamental question you're asking, is the government involved? And that's what we need to ensure in this country now, that, and we will try and do that when we go and see the minister and say, look, here's what we're doing with this program. Here's the difference it has made already. To your point, Ms. Ba, in terms of getting more women, you know, top of the funnel. We've got to put more women into the funnel. That's about widening the pool of women entrepreneurs. And it's about, and that will then create more role models, right? So where do we get all these women from? Well, actually, I can tell you, when we opened this program, you know, we sat there and looked at each other and said, my God, where have all these incredibly talented women been hiding? They are all there. It's a case of digging them out of the woodwork, quite literally. And because we then opened up the opportunity with this kind of program and we have the network, we have had 3 times the number of applications to the program to places. And that tells you the talent and the appetite and the ambition and the aspiration and all of that is out there. We just need to unlock that potential and offer the right support at a structural level, you know, in terms of, you know, giving support, mentoring, confidence building, skills development, and so on, to really help these women unlock all of the talent that they already have. And that requires that national structured top-down approach. And that's why we need to get the government involved, because we have seen for so many years now, and Tech Nordic Advocates has been part of that, that the grassroots level initiatives, events, networking, and all of these things are great, excellent, but they don't effectively solve the problem. They are excellent for meeting and so on, but fundamentally, structurally, they don't get more women into the funnel, and they don't support women through the funnel in the correct way. Because when you go home from these networking events, you met a lot of people, it's been good fun, you know, build connections and so on, but you are fundamentally not solving the problem. And that's why we need structural actions like that. So I really wanted to add that. And so I think what you're doing, Ms. Pakistan, was some of the things you said absolutely right. And I think what Jasmine was saying about these challenges is exactly what the challenges are. And that's exactly how we have to work together and get the government involved, which I too agree with you, Jasmine. I think the time is right and they are now listening. So I really look forward to meeting the minister and talking to how we're going to drive that change forward. So sorry, I just had to add that. That was just a really important points that you both unlocked, which are actually at the heart of this whole thing.
I think that was very, very good. Well done. This is exactly what the debate should be about. Do not fear coming in, cutting in. I'm merely passing around the microphone, so to speak. Ms. Pai, I can see that you have a raised hand. Please, what would you like to add to this?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Shanetta was saying. I think one other thing that we've seen in Pakistan is at a government, at a regulatory level, the State Bank of Pakistan, which is our central bank, has been putting in place certain policies that are providing access to facilities for women entrepreneurs. Now, at that end, there is something that is being done. I think the challenge becomes you have to make sure that that flows down the line to the banks, whether they're large commercial banks or medium-sized banks or even microfinance banks, to actually then make sure that women can access the facilities. It's not just about creating an incentive at the very top and then saying, okay, from our perspective, we've created this incentive, now all banks should be able to provide facilities. Because for one, we've seen women don't often opt in. One thing that Samar mentioned earlier also, there's a big gap in financial inclusion in a market like Pakistan. And women are often don't have access to financial products. So now we're talking about even more complicated, like another level of complication in terms of getting a loan facility, accessing funding for your startup or your business. And I think that just setting a policy in place is not enough. We have to make sure that that is then seen to be executed down the line to the point where money actually does come into that female entrepreneur's hands for her business. And to your point, Janetta, it takes all of that to actually then create access, get the training, have the skills development, and then really, go out there and say, I'm going to help people make this happen, because there are women out there that want to do this. They may just not have had access, or may not have self-selected, or may not have had the ability to talk to their banker and convince them that this is something that they should be being able to access.
And like the confidence, right? And don't have the role models and don't feel. So when you go out and get them, if you like, and and actually saying that's what we saw, which has been an incredible, eye-opener for us with the program. So we, let's call it, advertised on LinkedIn and social media and in our own networks and so on before we recruited the first cohort. We're running 3 cohorts of the program. So before we recruited the first cohort, we went out there and said, look, we are opening this program together with the Danish Industry Foundation and private sponsors and the Danish Growth Fund and Copenhagen City Council and a bunch of different partners are involved in the program, private and public. So before the first cohort, we had to go out there and say, look, we're running this program, entrepreneurs to be can join to the top of the funnel bit, because we need those that haven't yet launched businesses to get them into the funnel, give them the support to actually launch businesses, but also those that are in the funnel and those that are so far down the funnel that they are ready to internationalize, and we can help them expand internationally. So we have those 3 groups. So before cohort 1, we went out there and promoted the program and said, look, this is opening up and who's interested and so on. And that's the only time we have had to say anything externally to promote the program. Subsequent to pre-cohort 1 applications, we have just been inundated with applications. So basically, what that is telling us, there's enough women out there that are either wanting to become entrepreneurs or in the process. But like I said, literally, we got them out of the woodwork. And because the program then started, and that first round, we have created that domino effect where the women on the program have in their own network said, this program is brilliant, you should be part of this. So the program is now generating its own momentum without us, having to say, look, there is support out there, come and join it. It's happening. And so the first part of it, I mentioned that are 3 parts of the program, and they are, to your point, Misbah, tackling those exact 3 challenges that you mentioned. That module 1 is about top of the funnel and nurturing the ones in the funnel. Module 2 is an accelerator program, which we're launching in January 22, which is taking those businesses that are on the way to really say, right, you have already shown growth potential. Now we need to help you accelerate that growth. What support do you need? And we're putting that around that in a structured accelerator program. And then module 3 is a venture fund, made up of investors, Danish and international, London, New York, Silicon Valley, Canada, whatnot, Pakistan even, if you're interested, you're very welcome, to actually really create an umbrella fund of organizations that are saying, look, we are committed to investing into women-only, women-led tech businesses, so that we remove that obstacle, which we see all the time. I see it, you see it, of investor panel sitting in a room, and then in comes a women founder, and then in a nanosecond, all the unconscious bias is out there, as in, oh, she sounds interesting, but she's going to go off and have a baby soon, or do you know what you're doing? How am I going to get a return on my investment? I've seen all this in London so many times, of all the unconscious bias. So if we actually take that obstacle out of the investment process, get more women investors in for sure, but also really say, look, we're going to say to these investors up front, what this is about is investing in high growth potential tech businesses led by women. You're not going to be surprised when a woman walks into the room to give a pitch, because and you have seen the business plan and you have done it, right? So that's what we're going to try and do. And so merging this top-down governmental commitment action with actual operational programs that can make things happen on the ground. And that's what we are seeing right now with the program that we are running is already making a huge difference. So we are really keen on obviously getting more and more involved in that, and we're taking it to the Nordic level, and also working with our partners across Global Tech Advocates and Tech London Advocates, and so that is partly why actually we started this conversation with Zulfikar, because he kind of approached me and said, you're running this program, how can we do something with Pakistan? So all of that to say, I think we have all the right points coming out here, but structured action is it. Yeah.
Samar,
So I just wanted to add something to what all the ladies have been saying, right? So one of the things that I think is really, really important, and that comes back to confidence, is also what we call the imposter syndrome. So many women that I know, they're shying away, or they're steering clear of whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's technology, because they think they won't be able to do it, or they're not good enough, right? So that's one. So at the mental level, I think we need to look at, the mindset. We have to think about changing the mindset. The other thing that consistently comes back, yes, a lot of women are running homegrown businesses, but when it comes to scalability, the ambition, that growth mindset, right? How do you cultivate that? So I think part of it is psychological. You can equip them with a lot of the hard skills, right? So digital skills, marketing skills, financial skills, soft skills. Naturally, women are usually better at communication and so on. But sure, you can teach them all of these other things, but the mindset, and I think that's really, really important. The other thing that I'd like to share with you, some of the work that we've done on the Pakistani front. We were running this platform called Connected Women Islamabad chapter for a year and a half. And we put together 10 different learning sessions. And each time the premise, whenever these women would walk in, the first thing I would say to everybody is, okay, this is a no judgment, safe zone. So if you're feeling particularly judgmental towards any person over here, the door is that way, please exit. Because there is so much of pressure that the society puts on women, and that we ourselves, put on ourselves. So I think there's also that level of kindness, that level of that space that we need to create for ourselves. And I think these communities of peers, of strong women leaders who are trying to lift one another up, this is really important. And that's something which, Jeanette, like you're mentioning, we're seeing that in Pakistan as well. So all the time I see men are continuously putting together panels, okay? So men will feature on these, panels, and there's no woman. And then they claim, oh, we couldn't find any. And always consistently, there'll be women who'll be tagging one another and saying, no, what about her? This is speaker, right? So we're really trying to do that. But I think it's important because that mindset on the other side, right, that those allies, they need to understand. And part of it is not because they're not, they're not thinking. Actually, that's the problem. They don't realize the challenges. So when you'd asked the previous question about investment, if there is a woman founder who comes to me, and each time we really try to be facilitative in our acceleration program as well, because usually we find that women entrepreneurs will hire more women in their teams. They usually have businesses which are driven, which are more inclusive in nature. A lot of them are actually focused on women issues. So SheCab is run by a woman, right? I mean, why is she thinking about mobility issues for women? Because she's faced them. So, and we've all been there, right? So we've been mothers and family people and all of that, but yet we've excelled. So in a way, when you have women in leadership positions, in hiring positions, in decision-making positions, they have been there, done that. So they understand it. It's not a barrier that the woman is going to have a child. Guess what happens when she has a child? She becomes an even more efficient multitasking person, right? Who manages her work more beautifully than ever before. Because she's managed her time. And this is something which people they think it's a barrier. It is not a barrier. I think there are so many beautiful things that come with being a woman. And I wanted to actually link it back to social entrepreneurship as well. So you'd mentioned, we're talking about how is this also linking up to empowerment and things like that. There's a very, very strong link. And I think part of that is, again, coming down to our biology. We're nurturers, we're creators. So you need more women, whether it's investment, whether it's in entrepreneurship, whether it is as professionals, because business, the nature of business needs to change. The crisis that we are currently in, for so many years, we've had CEOs who have not been women. So climate change, other issues, education as a crisis, health as a crisis. And if you twist it around, women are nurturers. They care about the environment. They care about the people. They want to be more facilitative towards everything. So I think, those are sort of some of the realizations. And then, of course, they're hard facts. When you have more women in leadership positions, in your board, in your board membership, etc., business is also better. Economic research, I mean, there's multiple research out there which indicates towards that. So I think it's about articulating. So when you guys are talking about working with the government as well, part of it comes back to advocacy, which takes longer, but you need those kind of, you need those nuggets of information being thrown back at decision makers again and again. So advocacy also requires consistency, right? So anyway, I just wanted to add a couple of points there.
Very important. So many important points.
So this is really showing a picture of this global female entrepreneurial spirit, linking it with confidence, and confidence being that one denominator that is so crucial for a global female entrepreneurial spirit to even be built up. And certainly, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe in the Nordic countries, certainly, confidence within the female population is not a problem necessarily. But that may be more of a problem in South Asia. And to your point, well, what could, from a government standpoint, what could be some of the activities that could actually help kind of alleviate this issue? Chinere, do you have any ideas on that? I mean, could there be things that could be done from a governmental level that could actually be a source of inspiration for the South Asian community?
No, I absolutely think, and I'm conscious we didn't answer your question before about toxicity, which you asked. So let me just answer that super quickly. I mean, I think there is toxicity in various, parts of the whole kind of food chain of all of this. But I actually think the whole debate about this is moving beyond, and has moved well beyond, the men are all bad, right? There's some men out there that are bad. But there are also some women out there that are bad. There are some of us that have had women leaders in the past that we really have not liked any more than we have liked male leaders. So there are some misogynistic, unpleasant men, but there are also some unpleasant women. So I think we need to go beyond all of that. And actually what I have seen in recent years, and from when I started PwC and I was leader in IBM for 10 years globally and European and UK and Nordic and whatever, I experienced a lot of toxicity. Men recruit men and it's jobs for the boys, and every board meeting starts with 10 minutes on the cricket match the day before, and you're standing in the corner as a woman and you haven't watched the cricket match, so you're kind of a little bit, the odd one out, so the environment, but all of that just speaks to the unequal balance that we need to redress. Yeah, is it toxic? In some places, yeah, but environments can also be toxic for other reasons than just because they're male dominated. So I don't think we should get fixated on all men are bad. What we should get fixated on is, you know, addressing the balance, the male domination of the ecosystem, which brings a whole raft of things with it. But that's only one challenge. As we have discussed, there's also women ourselves and our confidence and so on. So we have to look at ourselves and the mindset and everything we talked about. And then there's the structural issues around, you know, access to maternity pay and childcare and all of these things. So there are those issues that all come together, and toxicity is there somewhere, but I don't think we should get too focused on that. I think we should move beyond that. And just to nail that point, what I have been absolutely excited to see with the program we're running here is the huge influx, and I use that word quite deliberately, of male mentors that have asked to support the program. Not offered, asked. I would really like to be a mentor on this program. And we have aimed very high to recruit what we call rock star mentors, serial entrepreneurs, Denmark internationally, investors, you know, the whole spectrum of top people. And over half the mentors on the program are men, deliberately. So we are ensuring that we're giving each and every woman mentee, so the women entrepreneurs, access to male and female mentors. So we need the role models and the mindset and all of the women stuff. But we also need to match the women up with male entrepreneurs, just because the world is made up of men and women. And for the rest of their careers as women and entrepreneurs, they will be working with men a lot. So there's no good we taking them away and saying, here's a women's only club. You know, you got to understand the whole thing. And I have been so impressed and so excited to see how many men have come forward, successful men, and said, I'd like to be a mentor on this program. And they're not paid to be men mentors. They give up their time to support these women. And so that is part of the reason why I say this whole thing has moved beyond toxicity, because I see a real desire and appetite out there for the men to help change this. And so just in super quick answer to your question about the government, what should they do? Well, they should help fund some of these programs, and as they are in Canada, and that's what we're going to talk to the minister about. They should help create venture funds for women, as they have in Canada. They should have a women entrepreneurship strategy, as they have in Canada, that has these various pillars beyond it. You should actually take this up to the top level and have a proper strategy supported by an execution plan as to how we should change that. And part of it is you know, getting more women to the funnel. Part of it is supporting those in the funnel. And the third part of it is helping women get access to capital. And those are the three parts of our program. And that's what we are going to be saying to the minister, that if we are serious about making a change, that's what the government needs to get behind.
Great. Just finally here, Shasmia, your points, just a few thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, except for the maternity leave, the problems we can solve there. I think it's very important that young people meet entrepreneurship in the school system. Right now, there are almost more commitment to teaching kids how to use a sewing machine than there is to teaching them how to even look at their own finances, their personal finance, and how to run a business and make a business idea and run that. I think we should be much better at showing kids that creating your own company should be just as normal as going in and become an employee in a company. So that's one point. And then I think it's important that we also make sure that women have a tendency to maybe, as was mentioned before, like making something very close to home. Then they might have a small business at home making baby clothes or something like that. And it's not like there's anything wrong with that. But what I would love to see, and what we women can turn inwards, is to be more ambitious and want to run like a global baby clothes company from day one, right? Make something scalable, because I think a lot of women would quickly be like, oh, but this is good enough. This is fine. I have one employee. That's okay. And of course it is if that's the ambition, but I would just love to see just a little bit more ambition on some female business ideas.
That's
Great.
such an important point, Jasmine. That is such a crucial point. Because you know what, just to add to that, that's why we need women into tech.
Yeah.
And exactly what you just said, Jasmine, women tend to go into those kinds of businesses that you just mentioned that are home-based, not high growth, and tend to be quite happy with one or two. Well, they're not the high growth industries. And the high growth industries, is tech amongst many, but predominantly tech. Everything's tech these days, right?
Yeah.
That's where innovation, economic growth, jobs, exports, foreign direct investment, all of those things are going to come from tech. So that's why we need to get women into tech. And exactly as Jasmina just said, raise the bar a bit. Let's get you ambitious. Let's get you happy and familiar with tech. Let's get you using your skills in tech that can help you scale and innovate and create jobs. That's exactly right. And that starts at school level, exactly what Jasmina just said. And that needs to change too.
Fantastic. And that will be the last point that is made in this roundtable panel discussion. Thank you so much. I would like to thank you all for being part of this. For the men and the women that will be watching this will be it would be edited in different segments and it will be published and you will get all the links. I would like to thank the Danish Pakistani IT Entrepreneurial Forum for letting me be a part of this and facilitating and helping you promote these, all of these points to the greater population generally. Thank you once again for being here. And this will be all for today. We will end the roundtable discussion here, and I will see you all on the social online platforms. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Faisal. Thank you for being a fantastic moderator.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Very much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks. Bye.